Hello and welcome back to the Nothing to Something podcast. This is a podcast that showcases real conversation with real people discussing their real struggles on their way to achieving real success. Now, today's guest is somebody who, in my eyes, has already achieved a hell of a lot, but by their own admission, is in the very early stages of their mission. This is somebody who has set out some real takeaways in terms of life, in terms of business, but also in terms of the way we raise our children. Today we have Emily from Fox and the Moon. Emily, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you very, very much for coming on. So, in a second, I'm going to set a bit of context behind this because this is, as I've spoken to you about previously, something that is very close to my heart. Having such a young child in the house and struggling with sleep over the past 12 months, this is a fantastic conversation for me to be having to increase my understanding of exactly what's going on and do whatever we can to control the controllables in essence. So just before we get into that, do you want to just explain who you are and what it is that you do?
Yeah, so my name's Emily, and I'm the founder of Fox and the Moon. And Fox and the Moon is a holistic sleep and well-being service for parents. So, all about supporting parents on their feeding journey, and sleep obviously is the main thing that every parent needs, and wants, and is willing to sell a leg for. And it's just the small kind of bit of what we do. Everything that we do is to promote child's well-being and then being happy, which then translates into sleep. And our kind of message is that sleep training isn't needed. And when we provide holistic care for new families, the results and the changes that you can make is amazing.
Yeah, that sums it up, just about sums it up to a T. So to set a bit of context behind that, I have two kids, been blessed with two children, youngest of which has just turned one last week. And the last 12 months, first and foremost, have been an absolute blessing. The level of joy in the house, the smiles, the giggles, the fun, with my eldest as well. It's an amazing place to be, as any new parent will know. However, there's been a lot of struggle in there as well. A lot of that's revolved around the sleep or the lack of sleep, the broken sleep, and leaning into the content that you guys have put out. My fiance found you guys on social media, and the content that we've consumed from you guys has helped massively. So,
Oh, bless.
further extending into the context of this, I'm a person who
Mm.
is, I've worked in the health industry for going on 10 years now, personal training. I've developed from there as a development coach, a few different avenues off of that. But I'm very much health driven, very much focused, very much go out and get it. Nothing in my journey to date has tested me as much with my mental health. I'll be completely honest,
Hmm.
through the sleep deprivation, through the cognitive demand, and everything else that comes with having a newborn. Now, my eldest is 8, about to turn 9, so I'm not sure whether the two kids are completely different or whether I'm just 9 years older and I can't cope as well.
Yeah.
Maybe a combination of the two, but that's just to hit a bit of context now. Obviously, we know that any parent will tell you that our baby is absolutely amazing, the best things that ever happened to us, genuinely, hand on heart. And getting your babies to become happy and sleep well, we know aids in the growth, aids in the cognitive development, aids in their alertness, and all sorts of stuff. We transfer that onto the parents, and let's talk about my own journey, my own struggles there recently, because I'm very much aware, because of my own career path, of sort of the knock-on effect this can have on the parents. So without going too morbid, I'm just going to state a few facts here that I've learned over the years. So sleep efficiency decreases with age, first and foremost. So we need more the older we get,
Hmm.
which is a little bit backwards, but there we go. Anyone who's driven and into personal development, like myself, and I'm sure you are running your own business, learn a new skill or the act of neuroplasticity and creating new neural pathways in the brain come through intense learning, followed by bouts of deep rest or deep sleep. When you're getting broken sleep or you're not sleeping full nights, you're not getting deep sleep. Regardless of whether you think you are, you're really not. Beyond that, we're getting to the health side, and less than 5 hours a night for a week decreases testosterone significantly in men, and in females increases irregular menstrual cycles and massively increases the risk of first trimester miscarriage. The list goes on and on here. There's a lot of alarming stuff in here without trying to scare people too much. This is why this is something that's so close to me, why I've reached out and why we want to get your take after we've looked at the way you've built the business, um,
Yeah,
and move things forward from there. So first off, again, thank you.
no
And
problem.
moving on from the thank yous, let's get into your journey first off, and then we'll get into the business a little bit and see what we can do on a day-to-day to support our families, if that's all right.
Absolutely, yeah, that's fine.
Should we start from the ground up? Sort of what's your journey to current day been like? What was your childhood like? Um, how have you evolved to present day?
Um, good question, and that's probably a whole podcast episode in itself. So I'll try and be brief. But I have a brother and obviously a mom and a dad who had a very messy divorce when I was about 10 years old. Um, it wasn't handled brilliantly from both sides. My dad and my mum didn't handle that very well. We got brought into it a lot more than we should have done. We had to make decisions that perhaps children shouldn't have to make. And it really did shape who me and my brother are, and that's not unfortunately not always for the better. We have quite a lot of trauma that happened around that time that does manifest in things and the way we are now. Very close to my family, both my dad and my mom and my brother. Um, but yeah, I've always struggled with my mental health. Whether it was, the parents being divorced was a catalyst to that, I don't know. I don't have many memories of pre-divorce, which is very sad, and I think that's just kind of a standard trauma response in a child. But yeah, always struggled with my mental health. Always been a very anxious person. Really like to know what's happening and be in control of things, and suffered from low moods, which really did kind of come to a head when I had my first son. So I developed PTSD after his birth, and actually had postpartum psychosis, which is a very rare and it is treatable condition, but it's life threatening. Like you are not
Mm,
in charge of your mind. Um, and that, becoming a parent, and I mean, it's probably relevant to say that this wasn't the path that I was planning on taking. I did a media and performing arts degree at Salford Uni. Met my now husband while we were both at uni. Like, things were good, and um, it took my life took a very different turn. And as much as, as you said, children are a blessing and we wouldn't change them for the world and we love them, having my first son flipped my world upside down in both positive and a negative way. I had to relearn who I was. It was a very, very tough first year of parenting. And our second son was then born 3.5 years later, 4 years later, with an incredibly rare skin condition that he shouldn't have survived. And for the past 3.5 years of his life, we've been in and out of hospital and battling a lot of health problems that have been very, very traumatic. And throughout this kind of parenting journey, I started to realize that actually I wasn't on my own with the lack of support I had, not just my mental health, but in parenting in general. And Fox and the Moon was kind of born in lockdown as a side hustle, and it's grown and grown. So yeah, it's kind of been there's been a very firm belief that everything happens for a reason. But yeah, life has not been plain sailing. I don't think it has for many people,
mm.
and it has impacted on who I am for sure.
Wow, some story, some story. As you
Mhm.
mentioned there, everybody has their own struggles, but it sounds like you've been through it a lot there. First and foremost, wow. Congratulations on what you've achieved and what you've built. As sort of started out as a
Thank you.
side hustle, as you've just alluded to there, first and foremost. Did that come about through you being a parent? Was it the tactics and the tips and the holistic approaches you picked up in parenting your own children that made you want to share that with others?
So I think I'm not brilliant articulating this, but I will try. I think the mental health struggles I had with my first son and how hard, like, I have always wanted to be a mum. That was all I ever wanted to be, and I thought I'd be amazing at it. And I'm sure I'm all right, but I definitely am not the mum that I thought I would be. And that's, taking time to kind of understand and get used to. And I'm sure, we're all victims of victims, aren't we? So I think that we carry things unintentionally through to our parenting, and obviously there's help for that, and you can start to unpick it. But when I had Arthur, I was obsessed with his sleep, obsessed with getting him in a routine. And everybody around me, all the information I was consuming, healthcare professionals, everybody said, he needs to learn. You have to teach him how to self-settle. So I was like, okay, cool. Going to teach him how to self-settle. That's what everybody does. That's what all the information is. And we did some sleep training with Arthur, and it didn't work really that well. But I was just like, okay, this is what everybody does. It's a rite of passage. Um, when lockdown hit, I guess becoming a mum made me lose who I was. I didn't have hobbies anymore. I didn't see my friends as much as I'd want to do. I used to love acting, singing, dancing. It all just stopped overnight, and I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I belonged. All I knew is that I was a mum, and I, because I'd struggled so much with my mental health, actually made the decision that I didn't want to have another child. Um, and we'd made the decision that we did want another child, and that I was going to get some really good therapy and find out why I felt like this and how I could move past trauma and put plans in place to stop any trauma happening again. And whilst I was getting this help, fell pregnant with Henry, and he metaphorically weed all over that situation, because he taught me, actually, mate, you can't control anything, and I'm here to mess things up. So went into labor with him. Arthur was born at 42 weeks following failed induction emergency section. Henry, my waters went at 30 weeks, and nobody was expecting it, and the plan was, this woman needs some psychiatric care when she's in hospital. We're going to give her a planned C-section so that we can eliminate this trauma for her. She's going to have a side room so she can get some sleep afterwards. She's going to have visitors all the time. It's going to be great. Walters went absolute shock. Cut a very, very, very long story short, he arrived at 32 weeks, after I was 10 centimeters dilated, and he was sat bum first. So they had to intubate me and give me a general anaesthetic to
Wow.
birth him. That's not the right word. Deliver him. So obviously I was unconscious, woke up, and it was very, very obvious and apparent that Henry was very unwell. And again, that is a whole other story. And if you do want to read more about that, then I have written kind of like a little blog about
Mm.
Henry and our journey. But then kind of when he was about 6 months old, we'd been battling reflux. He was having apneas. I had to resuscitate him at home. He was constantly having chest infections. He was medicated to the hilt with PPI medication, which is kind of anti-reflux, omeprazole type of medication. And at 6 months old, I was like, struggling with his sleep. I can't sleep train this baby. He's been through too much. And then there was like this overwhelming sense of guilt. Like, why would I have done that to my older child? And just because this child is unwell, I'm not going to put him through that. So I started to do a lot of research on infant sleep. That's the type of person I am. I've recently been diagnosed with ADHD, so it all makes sense. But did a lot of research. Did a course that was very sleep training heavy, and I was like, okay, this is what people do. This is just what people do, and I'm just going to have to put some big girl pants on and get on with it if this is what I want to do. And I started to just help people in the local community with sleep hygiene and things, and I just thought, no, this doesn't feel right. And that's when I started to do more research, and then I ended up doing a holistic kind of degree level sleep coaching course, and that's kind of when everything started to fall into place for me. And that's when I started to research more about why children do not sleep and the massive gap in our healthcare system when it comes to babies, which is, I'm sure we'll move on to. But yeah, it started as a way of me getting some of my identity back, and it was just to earn some extra money alongside my husband's income,
Hmm.
and it exploded, for want of a better word, in a good way.
Yep, certainly, and we're here today, so thank God it did. Um, I-
Yeah.
Out of that, Emily, I'm taking a couple of bits. First and foremost, I'm in awe to an extent. You are an absolute credit to mothers everywhere. I think a lot of the people that
Mm,
lean into your content and consume your content for various reasons, well-being of the children, for the sleep, etc., they're going through that, not always that alone, but a lot of the times that alone. And I know from experience that everything else is going swimmingly at times. And when we're struggling with just the one
yeah.
aspect, you can feel overwhelmed, that it can become a lot. So to hear your journey there firsthand and what you've been through and juggle all this stuff at the same time, I think it's a testament to yourself and to show what we're capable of. They
Oh,
do say that when you think you're near your limit, you're only at 40%, as the saying goes. So there's a hell of a lot more in there. We tend to break mentally before we break physically, or anything else will follow to detriment. So credit there, massive, massive credit. And also a massive credit for going against the status quo. So for somebody to be going out and researching these things with the passion behind it and wanting to help, but being told from different
mm,
avenues that this is the way it is, but still going against that
mm,
and saying, no, I don't accept that. Let me find a way that works for me. That is rare.
mm,
That's rare. I've worked as a
yeah,
coach within an organization and externally, and coached hundreds of people over the past 7 or 8 years. And that is rare, let me tell you. Most people tend
yeah.
to latch onto what they're told, especially if they're told it from a couple of
Mm,
different sources. So that's an absolute credit to you there.
yeah.
Um,
Thank you.
no, no, it's well due, credit where credit's due and all that. I'm just looking at these notes here that I've got, and I've got so many questions going on in my head. So before we move any further into the business itself, was it hard to let go of
Mm,
your previous sort of career path? I know you talked about you did was it media and something else
mm.
in college, was it?
Yeah, so I did a media performing arts degree, and then so obviously that industry is very hard to break. So I was kind of doing little jobs here and there, kind of auditions, and actually ended up working for a massive organization near where I lived, and for about 5 years, very kind of safe job, wasn't at all what I wanted to do. And I think this is where things start to make sense now that I've been diagnosed with ADHD. Like, I couldn't apply myself in that job. I didn't care for it. Like, I there was no fire in my belly for it, and I
Mm,
just got on with it and came home. And I knew that I wanted more, and Fox and Moon came to find this identity, and then it has become a therapy thing for me. It's helped me prevent what's happened to Henry and other babies. And I guess what you said about going against the status quo kind of happened quite naturally, and came from trauma. It came from anger. It came from, this is not just our family this has happened to, it's happening to, I would now say, 90-95% of my clientele
mm,
and the families that I work with. And it comes from a place of nobody else is talking about this, and nobody else is, and I am not a confrontational person. I don't like people thinking ill of me. Like, I hate it. Massive, like, rejection sensitivity. But this is different, and I feel like there's some days where I'm like, I really need to keep my mouth shut, and there are some days where I'm like, actually, no, look at what's happened today or whatever, and it keeps me going. So yeah, I guess followed my passion and did what I wanted to do in terms of my degree in further education, and it just kind of filtered off. And then obviously fell pregnant with Arthur, and um just knew that my that time in my life meant that I was going to be at home with my children, and I was absolutely more than happy with that.
no, I'm with you. So on that, I know we've moved away from your media and performing arts now. There's no reason that you can't go back in the future. And I know you said that everything happens for a reason. Do you see yourself ever going
Yeah.
back? Do you ever see yourself building the business to a degree where it can run itself, so to speak, or you've got people running the business and you appear in Coronation Street or whatever's going on in the background?
um I would absolutely look like, just even like Amdram at this point, I'd love it. But like, I guess I use, like, mess around on Instagram and do stupid reels and lip sync to things, like it gives me a little bit of, I'm still
The
getting
passion's
in there
still
a little
there. The
bit.
passion's still there. No,
Yeah.
spot on. Spot on. So this is a full-time business now. It is rather large.
Yeah.
The content's fantastic, as I mentioned earlier on. We've shared it amongst our friends and family as well, who are in similar situations
Oh.
with the well-being of their kids. Where do you see it going for the future? Are you on the mission to expand the word and sort of get it out there as to there's a different approach, there's a holistic approach?
Yeah, I wish I could say. I I definitely need to find a way of preventing burnout. I'm doing a lot of one-to-one work, and that's because I love it. And if somebody needs help, they need help yesterday, and I'm burning myself out by kind of getting them in, squeezing them into my day. And the long-term goal is to kind of have some passive income stream so that I can protect my own mental health and actually keep the fire alive for this because it's needed. Um, so the long term goal, I'd love to kind of coach people that want to help people with sleep and actually show them, actually, guys, sleep training isn't needed. And I must say, when I say that, I don't judge people for doing it. Like, I did it, and we do the best with the information that we have at the time. And if we're told to do something like that from a health professional, we're going to do it. But there are a massive community of parents that don't want to do it, and that doesn't make them soft or airy fairy or, I don't know, I only eat organic produce grown in my garden type of people. They're people that just don't want to leave their kids crying, and that's okay. And that's, there's not just me. I have a very kind of specific niche in what I do, but there are lots of kind of gentle sleep coaches. But the aim for Fox and the Moon is to potentially be able to deliver training to people that want to start their own business in this kind of industry. Um, I'm trying my best to crack the NHS, and I'm hoping that's going to happen quite soon. I am currently working with a NHS consultant who I actually helped with her son, and when I told her what I knew, she was like, "Right, okay, let's try and get in there." So hopefully that will come, and just having kind of resources for parents. And I guess it's just comes down to finding the time when I'm not doing one-to-one work to sit and write something. Like, I have guides, like PDF guides. There needs to be more than that. There needs to be something that people can access when they've been told their baby's got colic and they're crying for 5 hours a day, and that mum is feeling suicidal, and there needs to be help for parents who babies have reflux. There's nothing that any NHS or healthcare professional in general is helping with that reflux. It's medication. Like, there needs to be something that parents can access that helps them determine what exactly could be happening to their child to make them so upset, and then that, and obviously why they're waking every hour in discomfort. And that's where kind of our services come in. So yeah, there's a lot. I struggle to have like a plan of how to make my ideas come to life. I'm like 2.5 years into business, and I'm like, I do not have a plan. I am winging it. But that's the long term goal, that I'm going to have, more accessible kind of resources for parents, and I can maybe take a bit of a step back.
You're winging it very well. I'll just put that out there.
I know.
You're doing very well considering you're winging it. That resonates
Yeah.
massively. Everything you've just said there. So, as a parent for the second time, and our youngest being so young, and the struggles that we've been through over the past 12 months, alongside the joys as well. Let's just put that in there. It's quite evident that
Mm,
whenever anything comes up with baby and we do go to the NHS, a lot of the time now you can't get an appointment. That's the first thing. So you go on the telephone app and you send pictures or you send a message as to the symptoms or what's going on at home, and bam, you've got a prescription waiting at the pharmacy. That doesn't sit right. So I know exactly where you're coming from there. Um,
hmm.
Keep fighting the good fight. Trust me, it's needed. The content needs to
I
reach a
know.
wider audience, and everybody who lays eyes on it or
Mm.
consumes it, see, it seems to resonate with massively, especially amongst new or aspiring parents. So amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. What's your,
Thank you.
well, sorry, I was going to go on to your why then, because I'm a big person for why and what your drivers are, which can kind of be seen through your passion already. But Just before
Mm,
we get into your why, you talked about juggling there and the overload. Is that something that's just come on now with you saying that you're so passionate about it and you want to help everybody? I know that could be a blessing and a curse. Have you got anything in plans to
mm,
take anything in your head to take care of that? Because overload is a real thing. I know that from coaching. I know that from personal experience. You can burn
yeah,
out and you can struggle, and it's not just you that will suffer with that. Then it'll be the client base that
I
you're so
know.
desperate to help. Yeah,
Yeah,
you know the dancer.
and
What's
my family.
abstract thinking now? Yeah, family first.
Mm.
What's your plan? You must have something in mind to
The,
put
the
forward.
the plan is I need to like because the drive in me, and I guess we'll talk about this about my why, but like the drive in me is for parents to have this information, because the parents that do have this information have a complete mindset shift and start to understand exactly what we're lacking in society in general when it comes to babies. And my I'm working really hard at the moment to have things readily available so that I do not have to have the pressure of kind of earning my family's living by doing one-to-one work. Because as much as I love it, I need to slow down, because I have burnt out and I am going to burn out. I'm constantly exhausted. My own sleep struggling and suffering. Um, my parenting, like everything is at the moment, it feels like there is this fine line that I'm trying to uh and I guess everybody is trying to get the balance right. And when you run your own business, it's so hard, because generally people that run their own business are so, their business is their baby, right? It's like their thing, and you can easily get lost and kind of immerse yourself into that world because you're successful or because you want to be successful and have that drive. So yeah, the plan to stop me from burning out, I've already got an associate sleep coach that's working with me, um and just having a bit more of like a plan, having more of, okay, this is the split between one-to-one stuff and kind of like a passive income stream or courses. But I can't not, if somebody rings me and they're like, I've heard you can help me with this, I'm like, okay, I'll get you in tomorrow, I'll get up at 5 a.m. um so yeah, I don't, and I think actually having neurodiverse brain makes it very difficult to have a very clear linear plan and a path,
Mm,
because my head is full of ideas and things I want to do and things I want to achieve and things I want, people I want to reach out to. And that's overwhelming.
mm,
Having my brain is overwhelming. And I'm very newly diagnosed, and I think that I've still got a lot to learn about how my head operates. Um, so that's the challenge, actually. But I think that being the challenge is also why the business is successful. So it's a bit
yeah,
of a
yeah. If you weren't
catch
so
twenty
driven,
two.
then we wouldn't be in this situation. 100%.
Yeah,
And you have got a plan
yeah.
there. It's just, yeah, it's all over
It's
the
just
place a little bit,
executing
but
it.
yeah, you have got a
Yeah,
plan in place. There's a means to an end there. Credit to you once again there
yeah,
for dealing with the neurodivergent side of things. It's something that is only very, very recently, to my knowledge at least, being
yeah, yeah.
accepted sort of within organizations, and people are being more aware of it or trying to be more accepting and see different qualities in different people. Not always a bad thing either. A lot of good qualities come out of it. It's just understanding that people qualities lie in different places, and people um, get the qualities across in different ways, so to speak. So that's
Mm,
fantastic. That's fantastic. It sounds like the plan's there. It sounds like the plan's there.
it is.
It's just
It's just
overly
doing
willing
it.
to help, wanting to do the right thing.
Yeah,
Spot on. So,
yeah.
as I was just alluding to a second ago, what's your why? What's your driver? I ask everyone this. So, anyone who runs a business or is very driven, working even for an organization or just in the personal life, to my money,
Mm.
everybody has a why, a reason why they keep going on dark, rainy days when they don't feel like it, they don't want to get out of bed, when they're struggling with their mental health. What's your why? What keeps you going?
Um. So I don't have a really what I don't have like a one sentence answer to this. I think my why is that we are missing very simple things in a new baby's care and family's care. And if we can work, if our healthcare system was kind of had a more holistic approach with babies, um, the whole world would be different. And I can expand on that, but I truly believe it. And I think that my why is I am doing this for Henry. I'm doing it to show him that shit happens, excuse my French, and there's a reason for it happening. The moment I laid eyes on him and he was covered in wires and in an incubator and looked very, very unwell, I knew I knew from looking at him that he was gonna change the world, and I still believe that to this day. And I believe that he was given to me for a reason, and the reason is to at some point change the way people think about babies and their sleep, and they can't be programmed and they're not robots, and you cannot teach an immature brain to do mature things. And and to help parents that are in the depths of mental health problems due to sleep deprivation, or actually just feeling like they have no control over their lives, that they're not being good enough parents because they can't work out why their child's so unsettled or perhaps not sleeping. When I help them understand that it's nothing that they're doing and start to really slowly put pieces of a jigsaw puzzle together, when you've got the history of that child, it's seeing, like, my why is seeing those parents like visibly, because we do a lot of kind of Zoom consultation things, you can see the weight come off them. That's amazing. And yes, I set out to kind of have this side hustle and help people with their sleep. And actually having a son with reflux and health complications because of that, although his situation and his experience and health is quite a rare complication, I'd say, of kind of reflux and things. Um, it's to it kind of accidentally fell into me wanting to know more about what was going on for my own child, and then starting to be able to translate that to pretty much everybody I was working with. There's just constant light bulb moments. So there's the why because of Henry, there's the why because I feel like parents need to know this. We could save lives with this information, not just from a child perspective. And I know that sounds dramatic, but there's a very clear reason why I've said that. And also reduce mental health rates in parents, reduce maternal suicide rates. Having somebody to listen and to hold somebody's hand through that process of a child that's sleeping better. And it might sound dramatic, like if you've got somebody that's like, oh, my child wakes 2 or 3 times a night, but it's fine. Like, it's annoying, but it's fine. I don't feel the way Emily's saying that she sees parents, but I see parents that children are waking every hour and have done for 14, 15 months. There is very clear discomfort in this child, and nobody seems to know why that's happening. And that is torture for parents. And this is easy stuff. It's easily fixable and it's easily preventable. And all these parents need is somebody to listen, to believe them, and to hear them, and to actually tell them they're not going mental. So that's a very long paragraph story novel as my why.
That
But
is a
that is
why. No, that is a why. Honestly, no, amazing, absolutely amazing. I can see why you get out of bed every morning with a why like that. I seriously can. No, thank you for sharing there. That's what you call a why. It's
yeah.
clearly evident that you're so passionate about it, and for good reasons as well, personally, and for the differences that it can make outside of your household, as we've just talked about there. So no, that's amazing. On that, with so much going on at home, and obviously this and your business being relatively new, and all this weight that you're putting onto yourself, as you've said,
Mm-hmm.
to get the word out there and expand and make as many people know about this as possible. How do you juggle home life and business? I know it's difficult at the best of times for myself even, and I run my self-employed
Yeah.
businesses, a side hustle. I work a full-time job as well, and
Mm,
then I've got two kids and
mm,
misses at home. So I struggle
mm.
at times. How are you managing to juggle home and work life?
I don't. I don't do it well, and I'm still trying to find out. I think the busier and more kind of successful and the more traction the business gets, the harder I find it. Excuse me. And there are times when I go to bed and I'm like, I've not been a good parent today. Like I've not spent enough time with the kids, or especially my 7.5-year-old. Like, have I sat down and spoken to him today, or have I been like snappy and ratty? And actually, it's okay to say, yeah, probably not been brilliant. Like, there's no way to be perfect at this. You've just got to be real. And if your children see, I try and comfort myself with the fact that my children are seeing that I am trying to make a better life for us and I'm trying to make a change. And when they're old enough, they'll understand where that came from. And the juggle is not always, you're never going to get that right 100% of the time. There are going to be weeks or months when you do, and there's going to be weeks and months where you don't. And I'm kind of more than willing to say that this isn't, having this successful business and doing well doesn't mean that every area of my life is amazing. It's not. And I've been with my husband 13 years, and relationships peak and trough, and without kind of having pressure. We're both now self-employed. We've both got, a lot of pressure on our shoulders, and that's going to come with challenges.
Mm,
I try and I try and not work at the weekend, and I try and only work between 10 and 2 for consultations. And then if I have got little bits of work to do, I'll do it when the children are in bed. But obviously that eats into time away with my husband. Um, only yesterday, actually, I sat down and I thought, right, I texted my husband and I was like, every 2 weeks, I'm gonna book half a day out of my day of that week, and you'll do the same. We're gonna go for lunch before we go and get the kids, and we're gonna do that once every 2 weeks. That's Let's just put that in place, and then let's see how, like, what other time we can grab.
mhm,
Because I think that when you're a parent, the first person that's neglected is your other half,
mhm.
and or yourself. But actually, for me, and as selfish as this might sound, I know that I have to do the things that make me happy so that I can be a good mum and wife and a good friend and a good daughter and whatever else. And I am my family's fixer. And I also need to know how to fix me so that I can continue to be that person for my family. So I don't think the juggle's ever going to be perfect. And I think that when you're new to business, it takes a long time to work that out. And it's just about making little sacrifices in both your personal and your kind of professional life to make both work. And it's finding out how to do that and to make it work. So the answer is I don't have it sussed. And I hope that maybe one day I
No,
will.
that's fair. That's an honest answer. I can tell that's a very honest answer. Love the fact that you booked the half a day
Mm,
out there. Them little things go a long, long way.
yeah,
And the that
they
you're
do.
self-aware enough and introspective enough to know that you need to put yourself first and able to put yourself your best foot forward to the rest of the family. That's for me, self-awareness, introspection, superpowers. Superpowers. I didn't
Mm,
have them growing up, even through my adolescence
mm,
and early adulthood, didn't have them at all. It's only probably the last 5 or 6 years through me really getting into business and running my own business on the side that I've become more self-aware
yeah,
and introspective, and it's a superpower. So for anyone out there listening who's
it
trying to
is.
get ahead, make sure you're aware of your own thoughts,
Mm,
feelings, performance, both mentally and physically, and that'll carry you a
yeah.
long, long way. So for where we are, present day, business is booming. We've got this message to get out to the world. Do you ever see yourself going back to work for somebody else, or is your business your baby? Is this it now? Are you?
I think to run a business, you do have to be a certain type of person, and I fell into it, so I didn't know that I was going to be good at it. And I've never been able to maintain a normal job. I've always quit, or I've pre-kids, when I was going out partying all the time, whatever it was at uni, and I'd be like, nah, not going in today. Like, there was just no motivation and drive to work for somebody else. I think the only time I've really loved a job was when I worked for like a media agency, and every day was different and I had freedom. That's the thing. I think when you work for a corporate company, it is, I very much kind of struggled with having to fit into a box and having to sit at the same desk and have the same conversations. Like, I just found it very, very boring. And I actually thought that was either something wrong with me. Like, I wasn't a good employee. Like, I wasn't. So no, definitely cannot see myself going back. And I'll do anything I can to keep this going and for it to be successful, because it's the first time I've truly been really good at something, and that means a lot. You have, if you, and that's not tooting my own horn, that's like, oh wow, shit, I've got it figured now. Like, I finally know this is what I'm good at doing, and that's really important for somebody to know. It's like kids, isn't it? Like, you encourage what they're good at and you praise them and tell them how brilliant they are at certain things, and that's important for them. They've got to find their own way and what they enjoy, and it's what lights you up. And I just thought I'd never find anything that lit me up.
I, I'm
But this
smiling because
does, so
I'm
no.
buzzing for you. I'm buzzing for you that you found that. So many people don't.
Yeah.
So many people I know that
No.
are my age and older, and I'm getting on a little bit now, pushing 40.
Mm,
My age and older that just have not got a clue what they want to do, what the passion or the purpose
no.
is. They're still trying to find the way. So to have kind of found it, and not by accident, but kind of fumbled your way and struggled your way towards finding
Mm,
what you're passionate about, what you love, and what you're successful with is so
mm.
refreshing. So congratulations on that one. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Um, so just as we wrap up sort of the business talk, etc., have you got, and I'm sure you've got a million here, so we'll keep it to your top tips. Have you got any top tips for new or aspiring parents, both in terms of supporting the kids and a message for them as individuals, as we've talked about the mental struggles and the mental health and everything that comes along with sleep deprivation and the cognitive load?
Mm. Um, the first thing I'd say for like a mom that's newly pregnant, or you find yourself pregnant and you're starting that, is that the gut feeling that you may not feel right now, but the gut feeling that you have to protect this baby that's growing inside you is never going to be wrong from this day forward. That gut feeling is going to serve you, and you should never dim it, or never let anybody try and dim that gut instinct. If you ever go against it, it's going to make you feel a certain way, and it's going to impact on you and your confidence of being that baby's mum. I want parents to know that there's always a cause for colic. There's always a cause for reflux. If your child is positing or vomiting, if they're screaming, if they're waking every hour, if they've got mucousy poos, if they are very tense and very unhappy a lot of the time, you do not need to wait for them to grow out of it, because when we let children grow out of it, in inverted commas, they're compensating for that in other areas. And I could talk about that for ages, but I won't. But there is always somebody out there that will help you. And unfortunately, you might have to pay for that help. And my wish is that we can have like drop in clinics and centres, and you bring your baby who will not stop crying and you do not know what to do. I hope one day there's places like that dotted around the country where parents can just rock up and find out why. You When you've got, if sleep's the most important thing to us, and when you bring a newborn home and they don't sleep, it can be a shock to the system. I think that educating yourself on normal infant sleep is the best thing you can do, and there are lots of brilliant books and resources you can do that. No baby should be sleeping through the night from like 8 weeks, or when they reach 12 pounds, or when they, like, babies wake because they have to stay alive. And having realistic expectations and knowing that you're not in control of that is the most important thing, because the more you try and control it, the more you try and fix something that's normal, you're going to struggle with your mental health. Not only your mental health, but you're going to start doubting your instincts. You're going to start doubting whether you're a good enough parent. And actually, all that's happening is you're trying to make a child that's completely not able to do something. So the best tip I've got for anybody bringing a baby home is the only thing you have control of is working on feeding them, making it dark and quiet overnight, and making it loud and bright and exposing them to daylight during the day. And that is your only job. Obviously, you have to take care of them too, please. But sleep wise, you do not need to be thinking about sleep. All you are in control, that baby doesn't have a body clock. You are only in control of promoting its body clock to happen and mature. There's so much more I could say about that, and there's so many other things. But yeah, if you've got a baby that's waking hourly or more, it's not normal, and there's a reason, and you can find out why it's happening.
No, some great messages there, and a lot of it resonating once again. I'm just listening and thinking, light
Yeah.
bulbs going off. Oh, that's me. That's been me. Oh, that was a couple of months ago. So no,
Yeah.
fantastic content there. Right, before we wrap up, I'm just going to get into a couple of questions that I do on a weekly basis, because success leaves clues. So we'll see if how you are and how this marries up with anyone else, and I'll eventually put mine out there as well. So the first one is, talk us through your morning routine. Now, this, I know this might be a little bit different for yourself, being in your situation, being a family person, having a couple of kids, etc. Um, Probably the most common answer we get is that I wake up dead early, I train, I get my affairs in order, I plan my day. That used to be me, and was me for probably 10 plus years until the past 12 months.
Yeah.
That's fell by the wayside. What's your morning routine like?
Less than optimal. So do not copy this. I've got a PT as a husband, and he is an overweight, lazy wife. Um, I wake up. I wake up. I have a coffee. I am not a morning person. I get my children dressed. I send them to school, and that's when I can be like, okay, brain, it's okay now. You can come back to me. And that's when I sit down and have some breakfast and start to plan my day. And sometimes that's a case of me kind of rushing onto a Zoom call at 2 minutes to 10. Like, I am not, do not follow me for life coaching advice. It's not
Okay,
going to get
okay,
you
that different, very different.
Yeah.
So, are you very much? Do you wake up with the kids? Just wake up with the sound of the kids, and then you get up and crack
um,
on with the day.
no, I do set an alarm
Right.
to wake up before them. Both my kids love sleeping in the morning,
Okay.
so always have to wake them up and get them ready. And it's literally like go, 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 and they're gone. And that's when my brain can come back.
Sounds familiar. It
But
sounds
yeah,
familiar.
I try and have 10 minutes of like, okay, silence. Like my husband's like, why don't we get up half an hour before? Why don't we go outside into the garden and get the? And that's brilliant. That's what should be happening. But I'm sorry, I can't do that right now. Maybe one day I'll have a brilliant morning routine.
Do you know what? People need to hear this. Really need to hear this, because I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I'm one of the people who needed to hear this, because it's been so long. I've been a personal trainer myself, a development coach. I've worked when my days have been so productive and so rampant back to back with
Mm,
clients or working on different ventures. I find my me time, as I called it, and I would get up at 5 a.m. every morning and train, or go for a run, or do something where the rest of the world was asleep and I could do whatever I wanted to do.
mm.
That's gone. Temporarily, I'm telling myself, well, that's gone for the time being. So to hear that your morning routine is something like the way my morning routine is at the moment, I'll take that. I'll take that.
Yep.
Um,
Do what you need to do to
Next up,
survive.
that's it. That's it, exactly. So next up, what percentage of the time are you on it? When I mean on it, I'm talking about doing something that contributes to your future goals, whether business or personal life. Is there any downtime in there?
um No. And that's something that I desperately need to get back. I forced myself a few months ago to be like, right, phone off at 8, read a book. Like, I love reading, like, read a book that's not to do with kids and feeding and tongue tie and sleep. Read something. And I slept better. Like, everything was great. I'm my own worst enemy. Like, I'm so guilty of knowing what I should be doing and knowing what I need to do to benefit and to help myself, and don't do it. And actually, speaking to other people with ADHD, that's a really common thing. It's like losing weight, for example. Like, I've always been bigger, and not, it's like you need to do something, and there's something that doesn't let you do it, and it's very, very frustrating. And I think that's the thing. What I've learned with having a neurodiverse brain is that your brain can switch on and off quite a lot throughout the day. So it's
Mm.
about kind of knowing how your brain operates. So sometimes I will be on it at like 8 o'clock till 11 o'clock at night, and like last night was just sat writing this course for 3 hours, didn't look up from my laptop. And other days I'm like, okay, I've had a good morning, I will do my client calls, and I'll kind of 3 o'clock I'll be like, yeah, I'll wind down now. Like, I feel like I could have a bit of a chill tonight. But if there's anything still in that brain that I know I need to do or want to do, I can't rest until I've either researched it,
Mm.
done it, written it down, said it out loud. It's hot. It's not nice to be able to not have that kind of control over your brain. And I'm hoping the more I learn about myself from having this diagnosis, kind of, I can start to put some off time in there. But at the moment, it's on all the
It's full
time.
on. It's full on. Credit for managing
Yeah.
it. Credit for managing it so well. And then the last one is you get to sit down to dinner with 3 people, dead or alive, past, present, future, in an aid to make the rest of your life as successful as possible. Personal life, business, whatever it may be. Who are the 3 people you'd sit down with?
I did think about this. So, Kate Middleton, the reason being, she is very interested in children from 0 to 5, their mental development, their life, their trauma, their experiences, what they're exposed to. She's really interested in it, doing a lot of research, and I know I have got so much to say to her that I think would help kids, and I'd love to have the opportunity to
I like
speak to
that.
her.
I like that.
Um, I'd say somebody like really influential, like somebody that would be willing to sit and listen to what I am seeing. Like, that is all I want. I need someone to just sit and hear about these kids and what we could be doing to save the NHS loads of money and improve health in our next generation. I and it sounds like I'm Mother Teresa and I've got the answer. It's not that. It's there's a few things that could be put into place here that would change the game. So I don't know who that would be, but somebody that is kind of in charge of health of children in the NHS, or I'd say the Prime Minister, but that's probably not the answer. Um, so yeah, I think if this was like 3 people sit down to that you just love to speak to generally, it'd be totally different. But
Yeah.
because it's like business focused,
Yeah.
the third person, I really don't know who their third person would be. But
Okay.
it's about having the right conversations with the right people. That's what needs to happen.
I'm with you. I'm with you. It's quite clear there that the passion overflows, I'm
Yeah,
telling you.
sorry.
Yeah. And just finding people
Sorry.
who can broadcast that message. So no, credit to you once again. Massive, massive thank you for what you're doing. It is absolutely amazing.
Thank
The
you.
content's top draw. It's so useful. Anybody who's listening, get out there, go and follow you guys to consume the content. It will do so much for you. Emily, before we wrap up, where can the listeners find you? Social handles,
Um,
website, etc.
Website is foxandthemoon.co.uk. My Instagram handle is foxandthemoon_sleep, and my associate Molly is Molly_foxandthemoon. You can just search for Fox and the Moon Sleep on Facebook. Most of our presence is Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, that's going to be the place to stay up to date with everything that we're doing. And you can also sign up to our mailing list we send out kind of tips. We've got a podcast ourselves called the Baby Sleep Sessions, where we interview parents that are struggling and help them on the podcast. And parents, I wanted to create something where parents who can't afford one-to-one support can go onto our podcast, look at something that they're struggling with, listen to somebody else struggling with the same thing, and get some tips to how they can change that. So that's a really useful resource. Like if you want to learn more about frequent waking or moving away from co-sleeping or reflux or any of these things, then there'll be an episode for you to listen to. So yeah, that's called the Baby Sleep Sessions, and it's on Spotify and Apple and those things, all of the big
Perfect.
ones.
Sounds mint. Sounds mint. Live therapy sessions that we can all tune into. It sounds mint, honestly.
Yeah,
No, thank you for that. And thank you once again for coming on. Really appreciate you taking the time out. Fox on
no
the Moon.
problem. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Speak to you soon.
Yeah, no problem. Speak to you soon.
Bye.